had a question about continued education. Said, Akil, how do you continue to educate yourself outside of backtesting? I would like to spend some time each year like you do on this, but other than backtesting, I don't really know what to do. I know I can go through the videos, but I kind of feel like if I were to watch them, watch the defining and trend video again, I am unsure whether I'd have much of a positive impact because I know the rules of a trend. You know what I mean? So basically, how do you continue to do continued education when you kind of know stuff already? And there's a few ways you can do that. You can do, if you want to take the course route, there's nothing wrong with taking different courses. And when I say courses, you can say books as well, books and courses, right? Find something that interests you. So something I bring up a lot is the John Hayden book, right? The RSI book. I bring it up a lot because usually we're talking about the RSI in the room, but it's also an interesting case study because it is a book that talks about the RSI in a completely different way than what you're used to. And I think it's a very educational experience, but you have to be pretty grounded in your philosophy before you can read it. So if you're at the point where you're comfortable, if you're trading, you're doing what you need to do, you don't feel like you have to go through your course material again, I think it's okay to venture off to different paths. So, reading a book on the RSI. I took a course once on Elliott waves, right? I had no intentions of trading Elliott waves, but it was something I heard about a lot in the market. I understand the general principles of it. And I was like, hey, let's learn something about it. So think about it as being like a college student and you got extra classes that you need to take. Take something fun. Take something you're interested in. Take something on Bollinger Bands. Maybe take a course on indicators. Right? It could be many, many different things. Find a concept that looks interesting and say, hey, once a year, I'm going to invest in a course and look at it. And same thing like we talked about earlier. You never know when, maybe you, like I took the Elliott Wave course. I earned, I don't want to say I earned nothing from it. I probably earned something, but there's nothing that I used from it in my trading. I never actually completed it because it was a very dry course. It was probably, she was amazing knowledge, but horrible at presentation. It was so dry. Like I kept falling asleep at my computer. But I thought it was interesting. It was the part that I stayed up for. It was fun. It was fun. I learned something. I learned something new. Again, I read a lot of books. What did I read this past winter? I read Kathy Lynn's. She used to be on CNBC, I think. She writes for one of my favorite writers. She writes for investing.com. I think it's Kathy Lynn, Lien. But she had a book on like Bollinger Bands. And it was something I had interest in from some work I read from Adam Grimes. And I was like, you know what, let me just read it and check it out. Adam Grimes is a good one, Naomi. It's something, similar concept. It's price action. He has a course that you can take. He has a book you can read. Obviously, the course is based off the book because the book is extremely big. You can do something like that. I read, what did I read recently as well? I read the boys over at Trade Society had a book. Naked Forex guy had a book that one of you guys recommended to me. I read those things. And again, it's nothing that, there was nothing groundbreaking for me. And one of them was a very basic book. I bought it because I wanted to support what they're doing. I didn't learn anything from it, or barely anything, because I kind of already knew it. But you never know when you maybe to learn one small thing, right? Maybe you learn one little thing that maybe we don't teach, that they use, that you're like, hey, that kind of makes sense. Maybe I can implement that into my thing, because understand, right? Right? I think we're great. Correction, I know we're great. But we don't teach everything the same way, right? There's nothing wrong. You don't feel. Obviously, we want you guys to be here, but don't feel bad about venturing out to other places, right? What we like to think, I like to think that we've given you a very solid foundation of trading to work for. And find that foundation, I just don't mean the basics, but we've given you obviously the backbone of what trading looks like behind the scenes, but we've also given you strategies and concepts and all the fun stuff, right? When you venture out, right, you don't need to kind of forget everything that we taught you, right? Again, open up your mind, be open to new education. Maybe you stumble across something where it's like, hey, Elliott wave theory. If I can identify that third wave, that's the one I want to hop on for my trend continuation trades. Maybe that can help with my whatever. And then you take that concept And then you kind of mesh it with what we've taught you, or what you already know, I should say. And maybe you're able to make an addition or something like that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with courses, books. Strategy development, I think that's another big one as well. That's something that I can do. It's looking at scratching an itch, right? So maybe you've noticed during all your trading or all your chart time that, hey, when I see this specific type of candlestick, when I see this specific type of candlestick, I think it means something. And go back to it, right? You see something like, hey, Akil, whenever I see this, you see this long candlestick right here, right? I've noticed whenever I see that pin bar, the market reverses. And dedicate some time to doing a deep dive into that, saying like, hey, I'm just going to study this specific candlestick and see if there's any meaning to it, right? Again, the Cypher was created because Darren was looking into something about the Gartley. Many of you guys heard that story. But Darren didn't go out to invent the Cypher. There was a question he had about the Gartley, and he went off looking for it. And in his journey of looking for something about the Gartley, he discovered the Cypher. So go out on a journey and look for something like this. I did a deep dive, a couple years ago into, not a deep dive, but I did a strategy development, but into inside bars. Narrow range bars. Those are things that interested me in the past that I used to use in my trading that worked very well. I wanted to see, hey, can I implement them in a very specific way with the way I'm trading now? So questions like that, questions that you have about that, that can be used as continued education as well. So many things, just think about what would you like to learn, and then make it a kind of a combination of, hey, I had a question about this, let's dig deeper into it, or maybe something random. Challenge yourself to kind of think out the box, right? Go into a book that maybe it's a concept you never thought, not a waste of time concept, obviously, but something you're like, I heard this before, never really paid any attention to it. Let's try it. Maybe even digging into some classical book. I like going back to the classic books. I'm trying to think of a name right now. It's like, what was it? Technical analysis and stock market profits, stuff like that. Opening up Bukowski's books, right? And finding one of his million pattern formations that he looks at in there and deep diving into that. There's so many, there's endless things out there. Endless things, yeah. I don't really have any concept. Well, let me ask you this. What's your reason for entry? Because there's always something you want to learn. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher close, all right? So would there be any value into looking into specific candlestick formations? Any value, and this is something that I want to do. Any value in saying, hey, instead of I'll use this example. Instead of entering at a higher high, higher close, once I see this pin bar, putting a buy stop above there, or once I see the higher high, higher close, putting a buy stop above there. The former giving me a more aggressive way to get involved. So maybe you get those, maybe it puts you into those trades that have the big higher high, higher close that screw up your risk reward. The latter being a more conservative way. Maybe this takes me out of the higher high, higher closes that happen and then reverse right away. Two concepts right there. Maybe digging to the RSI or maybe an indicator. Can you use an RSI? Can you use a MACD to give a clue about reversal areas? Maybe a tighter way to trail stops. There's got to be something. Got to be something. You got to think about it a little bit. Think about the concepts that you're already doing and add to it. Maybe there's another specific candlestick formation. Maybe you want to dig into some Steve. No, he doesn't do Steve Neeson. Maybe you want to dig into some specific candlestick formations. So think about what you're already doing. Yeah, think about what you're already doing, kind of the concepts that you're using, and then what works around there. Yep. There's always Always something. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something new. Just thinking about something that may exist. Again, I'm very interested in the RSI. There are many concepts that I like on the RSI that I would like to test. I like the stochastics as well. The other day, I forgot who asked me about it. Someone asked me, 2 people asked me about the MACD. I'm not too familiar with the MACD. I never really used it like that. But that's something I plan on testing with the Daily Chore after talking with Jamal a little bit. So I may go into a deep dive learning about the MACD. Let me ask you this. Do you use any indicator? Just ATR stops? Okay. So no indicator. Like I said, there's a few different concepts you can go into that as well. Yeah. So there's always something. Yep. Always something. It's got to think about it or challenge yourself. Do something out the box. It's general education. Just, I want to be more knowledgeable. Learn about news, fundamentals. Rudolph says, I compliment. Oh, hell no. Now you took it too far. Yeah, one of the ways I used to use the MACD or used to look into the MACD is not even with, you could, just so many ways you can use the MACD. You can use it with just the histogram, no line. Here's a very simple way to use the MACD is just the center line. That's a very simple qualifier, just using the middle line or drawing a line in the middle if you don't have it in there already. Yeah. Looking for a simple cross or the cross break across. I'll give you an example of that, not to dig too deep into MACD because we still have 3 more videos we want to go over, or 3 more concepts. But if we were to add a MACD, I mean, here's another one that is. Here's the thing, like people, I think a lot of people use indicators, they don't actually know how to use them, right? There's so many ways you can use it. You can use the histogram if you want. Obviously, you have to know what the histogram is telling you, right? You can get rid of the histogram. Boom. Draw a line in the middle right at 0. Use the side of that line as the filter, right? Crossing down, crosses up. You can use the cross down, cross up, right? Where you wait for a cross and then you wait for a secondary cross. That's another one I've experimented with a little bit in the past. When I say experiment, I just played around with it, never implemented it. But one of the filters I've used for building strategies is a cross down, cross up. So here's an example right here, right? So we cross. Blue line crosses below. And then we get a cross up right here. That could be an entry signal as it stays above. So if price action crosses above this line, then wait for cross under. If we cross back up again, then enter or whatever you use it for. So a lot of different ways you can use this bad boy, and that goes for any indicator or oscillator out there. But the more knowledgeable you are about it, the more you know what those little crosses are actually telling you, and the more you can do with it. What does like momentum? Yep. Sorry. Good job, Tony. Thank you. Rudo says, I tried the MACD, but I think I like the stochastics better. Yeah, the stochastics would be my second one of choice. The only reason I don't use it because it's very similar to the RSI, so it's basically me looking at the same thing twice. But I love the stock. I love the stocks, and kind of that same crossover. I think it's very good as well for trailing stops. If anyone wants to be like maybe not a set target taking person, and you just want to trail it. I think that's a good, if you got to change the settings a little bit, but it's a good exit indicator. So it can tell you kind of when the move is over. I think it works a little bit better in the RSI like that. But very similarly, I like it as well. So yeah, I never really flocked to MACD. I think it's because I knew it was like the most popular thing. I didn't want to use it. I don't know. Who knows? So yeah, so many things. Ruth says, I compliment both my previous educational platform and tier 1 education. That's how I got my breakthrough, was able to build a common ground. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, you take different things from different places. Yep, and use them to suit to what suits you. All right, next question. We're gonna get into a chart question before we get into our last two, and I was asked to review a trade